Okay, so I'm in my car again because since my children are getting older, I spend a fair amount of time in this car once they come home. Anyways, I just pulled up and dropped one kid at karate. And I just need to have a moment here because no one told me about this part of parenting. So, a couple years ago, seems like Valentine's Day, by the way, is an appropriate day to talk about this conversation. Let's talk about sex. So 2 years ago, when my oldest son was in the 3rd grade, we had to have the sex talk. Which, I'm going to be honest, is it ever not awkward? But we had to have the conversation, and it came up because we were reading a Bible story. We were reading the story about King Solomon and how wise he was. And it was in the Action Bible, which, by the way, if you don't have it, it's really cool, especially for boys. It looks like a comic strip Bible. So we're reading in the Action Bible. This was the year that I homeschooled. Maybe this is why I don't homeschool anymore. No, but anyways, so we're reading in the Action Bible, and we came across the story of King Solomon and the 2 ladies who were fighting over a baby. And I had never paid attention much to this story other than the 2 ladies were fighting over a baby, and King Solomon said to the 2 ladies, I'm going to cut the baby in half, because King Solomon knew that if he said he was going to cut the baby in half, then the baby's real mom would be like, just give her the baby, because she loved the baby. And the baby's not real mom, I guess, in that story, was going to say, like, fine, cut the baby, because she didn't care. She just wanted to be right. So this was the story. So then I decided in all my wisdom at this point 2 years ago that we should read this story from the actual scripture instead of just the Action Bible. And when you read the story of King Solomon and the 2 babies from the actual story, not the Action Bible, it says that the 2 ladies were prostitutes. What are prostitutes, Mommy? My 3rd grader says to me at this time. Well, they're ladies that get paid to do special things. What kinds of special things? Well, special things, honey, that you do to have babies. Well, how do you have babies, Mommy? Y'all, this was at like 9 a.m. when this happened. So, because I was homeschooling at the time, I thought to myself, this is a really good time to resource the Usborne Science Encyclopedia. We're going to go scientific on this thing, which is way better than the way my mom told me about sex, which was by making us read a book called Susie's Babies about hamsters. I mean, so anyway, we read in the Science Encyclopedia. Somehow, somewhere along the line, I tell my children that sperm are like tadpoles. And so then my children become afraid that they have tiny frogs growing in their man parts. I also somehow call it a seed. And so then my children are afraid they're going to have a plant growing out of their man parts. Somehow we get through the sex talk. And I'm pretty sure my children understood sex. Except for that I don't think that they did. Because today, on the way home from school, we had to have the conversation again. And seeds and tadpoles came up. And I'm like driving home from school, trying to be nonchalant, when my kids are asking. It started because there's a sweet little girl in one of my kids' class whose mom's very, very young, and so she had her when she was a teenager. So my kids were trying to understand all of this. And y'all, I had to have the sex conversation again today. Again. This time, I didn't have the Usborne Science Encyclopedia. This time I had to do it all over again. And do you know when and I said all the things. I'm not even going to say them on here. You know what the things are. You know the birds, the bees. You know what goes where, how it happens. So I said the things. And my younger son says to me, gross. You guys. And then he says to me, Mommy, did you do this? Did you do this sex thing? And I said, at least twice. Because there's two of you. And then he said, how old were you, Mom? So, then I told him that. And then he said again, gross. And my older son was like, oh, do we have to do that? And I was like, no, never. You never have to do that. So anyways, experienced moms out there who have had the sex talk before, I need to know, how many more times do I have to do this before they know? How many times do I have to have the basic sex talk? Because I was not prepared to have to do it again today. So anyways, hopefully my kids don't tell your kids about sex, because your children may think that a tree or a frog could sprout from their loins. Oh, mercy me.